Bengals at Bills, which I thought this was going to be a bit of a showdown. I saw parts of this game at the
The
very
NFL
least.
wanted it to be a showdown so bad.
They did.
Well, actually,
27-10 Bengals.
sorry, quick interjection. Not as bad of a showdown as they wanted the Bills and Chiefs, because they were selling tickets to that game right before they even had the results in.
Oh yeah, because Joe Burrow at the end of the game, he said, "You better get those refunds." I
Yeah,
remember I saw that, and I was like, "Man." And some of the other stuff I saw was just like, "How are you going to beat? You can't beat Joe Burrow right there. Look how he's warming up." And they had the
yeah,
all white unis on and stuff like that. And I saw a lot of tweets saying like, "You can't even see him on the field because it's snowing in Buffalo and all that type of stuff." So
mhm.
Joe Burr, you the man. You made the Bills look bad, especially with Stephon Diggs and stuff like that. And speaking of Stephon Diggs, if y'all saw a lot of the stuff that Eli Apple was tweeting and stuff like that, that man, like I think Stephon Diggs said like what happened between me and Josh Allen on the sideline, because like you can see like Stephon Diggs talking to like kind of yelling at Josh Allen.
Mhm.
You know that was whatever, it was this and that. Yeah, he's like everyone's looking at the reaction, not the action and stuff like that. And then Eli Apple says Cancun in 3, and he had he literally had that heart, like the
Oh
heart
man,
symbol
that's
and stuff like
trolling.
that. Yeah. It was and a lot of people want Eli Apple to be silent, which honestly, after what that man's been through in this past like what 3 or 4 years alone, like he's been on two other franchises that hated him because of his play. I think it was the Saints and if
Giants
not,
at least.
yeah, Saints and Giants. And a lot he got a lot of hate from both the franchise, the fans and stuff like that, right? Especially when he was, when they went to the Super Bowl with the Bengals. A lot of the everyone was saying like it's all because of Eli Apple.
Yeah.
That's why he lost that Super Bowl and stuff. So you know what? He has the right to talk, especially after that game and stuff like that. Especially with all the hate he's gotten over the years. And finally, Joe Mixon and Samanje are a good combo. And shout out to Samaje Perine. He played against him in high school football up in Pflugerville, Texas. So hope you're doing good, buddy. If you ever listen to this podcast at random one day.
Yeah. This game was pretty wild. I mean, I should say pretty wild in how one-sided it was. I mean, it was never in doubt for me because I like you've been listening to me stand over the Bengals ever since like November, October.
Oh man, you've been like
But
Bengals, 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 the Bengals, Adam, the Bengals.
yeah, and so but the funny thing is now that the season is done for the Bills. It's funny how all NFL analysts and like personalities are coming out and acting like they didn't simp over the Bills the entire fucking season
Oh my
because it was
gosh.
the most like it, the Bills in many ways were similar to the Chiefs in that they had a lot of good that covered up the bad, and some of the good was that Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs connection is absolutely elite. Some of
Hmm.
the bad though is they didn't have any semblance of a run game whatsoever. I mean, I think Devin Singletary or Cook had like a couple of good games here and there, but nothing consistent. And the fact that like when Von Miller got hurt and your
Yeah.
defense just completely fell off a cliff, that's usually a bad indicator. Obviously, you had other guys that got hurt earlier on,
Damar
and
Hamlin was like the late season, injury that they had, right? That's the reason why you kind of see a lot of like support behind the Bills in their playoff run. But that's kind of where the other part of like the NFL like favoring in a sense like the Bills to go ahead is because of that one thing too.
yeah, and if you're a conspiracy theorist, you know how the NFL tries to rig matchups and stuff like that. There was
All the
no rigging this.
time.
There was no way, there was no way that you can tilt this one in the Bills' favor because it was that one-sided. But Josh Allen is the focal point of that team, and given that he was hobbled and the Bengals haven't lost since October, we kind of knew how this one would end.
Yeah.
In terms of like stat wise though, like Joe Burrow 242, two tuds, Josh Allen 265 and a pick. It wasn't anything like super flashy. Like, we've seen stat lines where Joe Burrow will throw for like 400 plus yards and have like three picks or something like that. But
Hmm.
this was one of those games where it's playoff football. You just do what you got to do to win. And Joe Mixon had a day, 105 yards on the ground, and compare that to the Bills who had 37 non Josh Allen rushing yards, and Josh Allen himself had 26 and a tud. You know,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
on the defensive side of things, it wasn't much going on either. It was just a grinded out football game.
I think a lot of the defenses have cooled off a little bit in the playoffs. I think that's the trend I've seen, especially when the playoffs started, was like a lot of these defenses are not defensing like they were in the
And
season. But it's
defensing.
yeah, they're it's it's the end of the season. It's cold depending on where you're playing at, but also because
It
like
was
everyone's
snowing.
bodies are worn out too. You can only do so much, but everyone's pushing.
That's
Don't get me wrong.
that's why that
So
first round bye is so damn important.
very, although you do not get paid for it.
Yeah, and the like both team defenses only had 1 sack, and Bengals themselves, at least on defense, they had 8 passes defended, which is kind of what like a lot for a lot of teams. And so I think
For
that kind
the
of made the
Bills
difference in the
team who
game.
go through Josh Allen and
Yeah,
Stephon Diggs, then if you're talking about like all those pass defenses, I did see some of those highlights, and I was just like, oof, yeah, you can't if you can't even make like you can't even get to Stephon Diggs as you would want, or any of your other receivers, that's kind of troubling.
yeah, and so the question is, Bill season is over. How do you regroup in the off season for them?
They're just reloading
Cancun on
heavy.
3.
Cancun on three. um, it's I think one thing they need to do is go find some more receiver talent. Because they had Cole Beasley out there and stuff like that, but like you have Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, but oh, you have Greg Davis too. Like Greg Davis is like this is the wide receiver too over there that you can get behind. I guess you need to find that third receiver for the team right now, and I think they're gonna move on to Cook as their running back. So I forgot his first name. Was it Josh?
I think it was Zach or Zane or
No, no, it's not Zach. Either way, last name's basically the other Cook of Dalvin.
Dalvin Cook's
Yeah,
brother.
Dalvin
You
Cook's
said right?
younger brother. Yeah, so he's over there at the Bills. They put him in the game. I saw him get some more reps. I think they're going to transition over to him.
James Cook.
James Cook. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere with the J, but yeah, definitely not Josh. What am I thinking? But that's one thing you have to do for the offense. There's not much else. I think they have a good O line over there. Hopefully, they can retain. I haven't really seen. They definitely need to do something with the defense. What's the status of Von Miller? Although Von Miller's just been active and talking about it on his own podcast show as well. So I've been watching here and there, but it's just one of those things where injury took him out for the season. He can only do what he can. So um, I think some of like their key free agencies is free agent players is Jordan Poyer, their safety. I'm seeing Tremaine Edmonds, their linebacker, who's 25. So I think that's a big contract, basically. That I believe they drafted him, so that's a big contract they're going to give right there. Don't see anybody else unless like I see some offensive linemen. I see Shaq Lawson, their edge, but he's 29. He was on like a little bit of a contract. So I don't, and Devin Singletary, which I think they're going to let go for again James Cook. So not too sure of. There's no other big names on there, but they just need to reload. It's just basically a
Yeah.
reload and try again. That's all you can do.
One of the headlines that came out of this game too, and when in terms of like people covering up the cracks on the Bills, was that Bills have invested a lot in their defense,
Hmm.
and they have very good players, but they've spent some very high draft capital and haven't been able to get that elite type of player to the point where Von Miller goes down, the entire defense doesn't tank, right? And I
Hmm.
think that's one thing to be concerned about. I mean, if you just keep stacking the room, eventually you're going to hit. So I can see them continuing to build that part out, especially come draft time.
I think one thing I saw on the meme side of things was that like the NFL actually changed the rules for you just because of what happened last year with the Bills and Chiefs, and now you just got knocked out. Come on now.
Yeah.
Oh man, 'cause that I saw that and I was just like, oh, that sucks. That
Yeah,
really
that
does
was
suck.
we didn't get a round 2 on that one.
Right, and the only thing else I have to say is just Joe Burr. He's the
Joe
man.
Shiesty.
Joe Shiesty, Joe Burr, like he's the man right now. So hopefully, we see him go far back into the Super Bowl, and hopefully they can actually win it.
Yeah, they're my team, so that I'm picking going through. So we'll
Yeah.
see.